Welcome to today's presentation by Bang the Table Canada on the Smart Growth for Our Communities Act. My name is Mark Pivon, and I am an Engagement Solutions Manager with Bang the Table. I will request that everyone hold their questions to the end, as time is limited and we have a lot to cover during this space. All right, so this presentation is about recent Planning Act amendments in Ontario reflected in the Smart Growth for Our Communities Act of 2015. In general, this act impacts citizen engagement, certainty, stability and costs, local decision-making and accountability, dispute resolution, and transparency. This presentation only focuses on 5 key areas of citizen engagement impacted by the act, and further we will explore how these key areas of citizen engagement can be served by an online engagement solution. All came into effect July 1st with proclamation. Now, what makes us qualified to speak about online engagement? Well, first off, we've been delivering online engagement to municipalities around the world for nearly 9 years. We have about 330 customers worldwide, and this translates to about 6,000 projects since the start, or about 50 new projects every week. And I'll also take about 5 seconds for a quick disclaimer. Bottom line is, I'm not a lawyer or a planner, and this training event should not be construed as a substitute for the kind of professional advice offered by these types of individuals. All right, moving forward, why should you engage online? First and foremost, it's about risk management. If you're not reaching out to the community, you are hostage to the few who bother to show up at public meetings. Now, I'm not condemning face-to-face engagement. Quite the contrary. It's very important. It's a very important device that offers a deep understanding of your community sentiment. And where face-to-face offers depth, online offers breadth. And for all you planner types, I hope you can appreciate the graphic I found that illustrates depth and breadth in a spatial context. So there's my only joke for the presentation. But moving forward, online delivers a wider reach. It improves the accessibility of the consultation by giving a voice to others who might not be able to attend a meeting in person. People like shift workers, people who travel, stay-at-home parents, those lacking transportations, those others who do not attend open houses, they are frequently more open to change and really less dogmatic in their approach. And online engagement also offers municipalities a way to deliver an enduring peace on the subject, and this helps to build trust in the community because, well, people will know where to get information. It's also cost-effective and delivers significant economies of scale. I won't belabor this fact. Every one of you is experiencing it right now online in this webinar. And at the end of the presentation, I'll share with you our guide to online engagement. So hopefully that'll be good. All right, so what is mandatory and what is optional? The 5 key changes impacting citizen engagement. So mandatory for all is the requirement to explain the effect of public input, the requirement to include public consultation policies in official plans, and the enhanced requirement to have regard for public input, which really applies only to the Ontario Municipal Board. But then mandatory with some exceptions are planning advisory committees, and optional is some of the alternative notice provisions. Now, so number 1, planning advisory committees. Previously, the council of a municipality, either upper, lower, or single tier, had discretion to appoint a planning advisory committee. The appointment of a planning advisory committee will now be mandatory for almost every upper tier and single tier municipality, though the appointment will remain optional for lower tier municipalities. So the members of the Planning Advisory Committee are to be chosen by council and must include at least one resident who is neither a member of council or an employee of the municipality. Now, so how do you manage your planning advisory committee? Well, you can use a notebook, a spreadsheet, some email system, contact management systems like ACT or Outlook or so on, a customer relationship management system, but we maintain that the best way to do it is through a purpose-built citizen engagement platform. And at the end of the presentation, I'll also share a boilerplate draft business case for Ontario municipalities. It references these changes in the Planning Act and also talks about the need to manage your constituents and your PAC and other stakeholders. It is also reasonably vendor neutral, so it doesn't all look like I'm jockeying for a solution for banging the table, although I'm not going to stop anyone from doing that. But it generally addresses the challenges you will inevitably have when someone asks you, why don't we just use the website that we have already? Well, one quick answer is that it's much more than a website. It's managing people, it's reporting and analytics, it's communications, engagement, education, and it's being able to be held accountable, especially in light of the new legislation. All right. Now, the second one is the enhanced requirement to have regard to public input. Section 2.1 of the Planning Act obligates the Ontario Municipal Board to have regard for the decision of Municipal Council, as well as any information and material that Municipal Council considered in making its decision. The section didn't apply when the OMB was hearing an appeal from a non-decision. So Bill 73 in the Act amends Section 2.1 to now require the OMB to have regard to any information and material that Municipal Council received in relation to the matter under appeal, including written, oral submission, everything received from the public, even if Municipal Council didn't render a decision in the matter. So an online engagement platform, therefore, offers some distinct advantages in these situations. These are platforms designed to collect better information for better decision making. All right. But I'm going to take a sidebar here for a moment. When we talk about better information in an online context, we're talking about analytics. Most municipalities are accustomed to using things like Google Analytics, which is really purpose-built around e-commerce. But e-commerce analytics is about measuring more, whereas engagement analytics is about measuring better. In other words, citizen engagement cannot be measured like e-commerce. The dynamic is more like a constant ebb and flow. Citizens, they don't automatically switch brands by leaving the city when they're dissatisfied with a council decision. So what does all that mean? Well, online engagement is generally measured in 3 stages, and I'm going to use some specialized terminology here and throughout the presentation, so this is kind of important. We have all the people that are aware of your consultation, and these are the eyeballs. These are the total number of people, the unique visitors to your site. These people eventually convert to an informed audience, and these people stay on site, they consume media, they watch a video, download a document, view an infographic, click on a calendar date, and so on. And then finally, we have everyone else who becomes engaged. And this is represented by all the people who take time to participate in an online engagement tool. They take action beyond consumption of media and create or submit something to the community, either publicly, privately, or anonymously. So how do you measure aware, informed, engaged? And how do you measure better? Certainly tracking visitors to a site is valuable. This helps to measure the effectiveness of your communications plan. And you can build a site, but the people still need to know about it. And tracking site visitors over time is nice to have for the communications people and the web people in the office. But looking at it another way, and in aggregate, the communications folks will want to know how many unique individuals visited the site over time. And a low number here means you might have to step up your communications efforts. Using social media might also help to increase awareness, but there's nothing really unique here. It's just site traffic. So here's where, there we go. So here's where better starts to happen. Informed tells you your community's understanding of the subject matter. They visit different pages, download documents, view infographics, and so on. And I'll come back to this shortly. And then engagement happens. And as a community's understanding builds, a subset of citizens will become engaged by submitting content, commenting, writing, posting, sharing, and so on. Now, how you choose to engage your community is part of a bigger strategy. Just like you have multiple tools to engage citizens in face-to-face consultations like World Cafes or charrettes or I don't know, appreciative inquiries, the same holds true for online. Different tools facilitate degrees of openness and transparency, and they're carefully chosen based on the topic being consulted and the feedback desired. Remember, this graphic and the openness and transparency increases as we move from left to right. Now we'll take a look at some examples. All right, so here are some examples from the city of Oshawa. They're running multiple consultations from their main page as indicated by the 4 panels. When we click through to some of the engagement spaces, we see a variety of engagement strategies being deployed. In our Oshawa engagement space, they're using stories with comments. They're getting some wonderful participation from citizens offering their perspectives and sharing pictures, all serving to enrich the Our Oshawa space. And then in the drive-throughs engagement space, they're using surveys. Different question types, easy to read. Again, another great example of engagement. All right, but then sometimes using the same tool can help to create conversation in multiple spaces as well, as in the case with the Canadian Department of Defense. They're running multiple engagement spaces. All their engagement exercises are at the farthest end of the spectrum of engagement, right? And then and with the most openness. And then they're also getting some great participation to boot. This participation is likewise crossing over into other conversations. In the next one, the Engage St. John space, they're running an engagement tool right off of their landing page with a guest book. In another project space, they're running a mapping tool and a discussion forum. And then moving forward, the city of Penticton is using their space to engage on multiple levels from within the same space. They're using the main site to promote both online and face-to-face engagement events. When we click through to the online space, we notice they're using several different tools all simultaneously. There's the survey tool, the questions tool. What else do we have here? The mapping tool, ideas, brainstormer, forum, and some of the tools receive tremendous engagement, while others not so much. I like this example because a municipality started off with some very high participation in the beginning in their ideas tool, but that eventually started to taper off, in part because there's only so many ideas people can come up with before they've all been asked. So when that happens, the engagement slowly transitions to an informed cohort. And however, when that happens, engagement still continues and converts from the informed audience because you've already caught their attention in another engagement space. So there is justification for multiple tools in certain circumstances. In Mississauga, they're launching a new consultation phase and they're in the testing period, but they haven't stopped engaging. Instead, Mississauga have implemented a quick poll. This helps to keep people connected to the site while they prepare the next phase, but also they've compiled a library of resources that the community can reference. And activity here falls into the informed cohort, all the while capturing participation data as people engage with the site and content. So this is a good opportunity to revisit the idea of an informed community, because while engagement happens, it's still a more natural tendency for the vast majority to sit on the fence or do nothing at all. Consultations with low engagement numbers but a high informed cohort offers some confidence to municipal administrators that the community knows about the topic. If the public chooses not to become engaged, it doesn't mean the consultation wasn't a success. Rather, you can conclude that the public was probably satisfied with the information that was being presented, and they just didn't feel like it was necessary to say anything more on the matter. This adds another dimension to public input. There's written feedback, there's oral feedback, and then there's also community understanding of the subject matter. Your informed and aware metrics will offer some confidence in this regard, as it's as though the entire city attends an open house and only a handful of people speak up. Your sign-in sheet in a face-to-face engagement would serve as some evidence of your community's awareness and understanding of the subject matter. And people who register in an online engagement space are no different. And conventional e-commerce measurement tools do not report on community understanding the way an online engagement platform does. Quality is really important. If the site is not engaging, the community will not engage. It's not about functionality, it's about usability. No matter what someone might say, they can't build a site like this using WordPress or Drupal or some other system, because it's all about the analytics and the usability of the engagement and participation data. All right. The next part, enhanced alternative notice provisions. So a little bit of gray area here. In an effort to modernize how notices of public meetings, decisions, and so on may be given, the province amended the Planning Act regulations to allow for the issuance of notices by email. But details of how this will occur, for example, like the distribution list, how it's supposed to be assembled, it's still a little unclear. Now, this also implies changes to the contents of various notices published in newspapers or posted on land will be permitted, although this is also unclear and appears to still require consultation with the public in development notice procedures. These notices will direct readers to where they can find essential information on participating in the approvals process, preserving their appeal rights and so on, ultimately like a website. It'll tell people to go to a website. I mean, despite the lack of detail in how all these messages and notices and whatnot are being produced, I personally doubt the province will be so prescriptive so as to impede municipal progress in these matters. The overarching goal of the Act is to simplify things for everyone and put more power into the hands of local government. The point is of this process and the associated notices is to ensure that there will be less public confusion. So, you tell me, I mean, where will the public typically go for up-to-date information? A local newspaper, or a city hall, or a website? And I would argue that the question is kind of rhetorical. To this end, an online engagement platform can assist a municipality by allowing citizens to sign up to various consultation topics and subscribe to updates and notices that interest them via email. I believe there is support for this use of technology in these circumstances, underscored by comments made by the Ontario Professional Planners Institute, who recognize that technology will pave the way to expanding the use of alternative forms of notification, as indicated in their June 3rd letter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. All right. Now, we maintain that an online engagement platform is still the de facto destination that people will go to if given a choice. Participation still tends to be evenly split between online and face-to-face. But online is what people rely on for the most current information. As we referenced in the earlier section, online engagement is also about building awareness and educating the public. And if we look back to the start of the internet, bulletin boards were the original killer app that brought it all to life. I mean, except for some added sizzle, a lot of the same functionality still exists. Municipalities can still keep the public in the loop. Okay, so for example, there's websites, email newsletters, sign-up forms, calendars, timelines, social media, subscriptions, news feeds, and just to name a few. All are examples of viable ways to serve the community's need to stay informed, and a municipality's ability to notify is served by these technologies. Number 4, the requirement to explain the effect of public input. This is another requirement in the planning process, and for those of you familiar with the International Association for Public Participation, IAP2, it's simply best practice. Look, you can't collect feedback from the community without acknowledging it afterward and telling the community how their feedback helped to shape plans and eventual outcomes. Even if nothing was influenced, it's common courtesy to tell the public that. It falls to reason then that the space used to collect information would also be used to communicate back to the public, also making the case for a separate and distinct engagement space. So these are examples from the City of Mississauga, Vancouver Airport Authority, and the Richmond School District. And they're consultations that tell the story of how each organization used their online citizen engagement platform to both notify the public and explain some of the effects of public input. In many cases, the consultation was a multi-phase project, and the consultation platform is used to explain the engagement process. In other cases, the platform is used to help control noise. Other people will gravitate to noise, whether it comes from social media, news media, or others interested in spreading disinformation. An online space gives a municipality a destination to deliver information that is correct and in their voice. And then the last part, number 5, the requirement to include public consultation policies in official plans. So the province amended existing regulations to require that applicants submit a public consultation strategy as part of a complete application. And this applies to official plans and amendments, zoning bylaws and amendments, plans of subdivision, and consents to sever. So as in the case with issuing notices, there is little detail around how the province expects engagement to be conducted. And like the notices, I highly doubt the province will be so prescriptive to tell municipalities they must only engage in face-to-face activities or online activities. I mean, if anything, I think a long-term view would put more emphasis in an online space, given the current support at other levels of government around things like open data, the Internet of Everything, bring your own device, mobile cloud, just the general interest in streamlining workflows. Let's face it, historically, public engagement was always project-based. Many municipalities practiced a tactical approach to citizen engagement. Basically, they did it when they had to. So in this scenario, public consultation would be a series of semi-connected exercises that include crafting an awareness campaign, recruiting new participants, holding open houses, surveying the public, reviewing the results, and then ultimately throwing everything into a filing cabinet until somebody else asked about it. The whole process would start from scratch for every new consultation project. Now, citizen engagement is an expected part of your routine. It is legislated and mandatory, so why not start with a hub? Give citizens a destination they can go to for regular information. It's a space that you and your community own together. It's still all your data. It's all branded to your existing websites, look and feel, purpose-built for engagement. Now I'm gonna tell you a quick story and then we'll be done. I live in Surrey, British Columbia, and even if you've never been here, you'll probably have heard the catchphrase, better safe than Surrey, right? It's a huge municipality with some troubled neighborhoods, but the area that I live in, South Surrey, doesn't really have a crime problem. We have high real estate and transportation and accessibility issues, and we have overcrowded schools. My kids are going into grade 2 next year, and their school is breaking ground right now on 10 new portables. And the point is that public consultation on crime might interest me, or it might not. But a public consultation on education, on accessibility, on new land use permits being issued in my neighborhood, now that stuff interests me. And a hub serves a municipality that has multiple interests. Like Oshawa, their current hub is featuring consultations on parks, water, and drive-thrus. Like Mississauga, their current hub is being used to build capacity, establish community relations, and build a vision. Like Montreal, they're using their hub to make their downtown neighborhoods more walkable, consult on urban and public transit, and redesign public spaces. Using online tools as opposed to a platform represents a wasted opportunity. Every online engagement project is a chance to build your database of community members. And once people have signed up, you can reach out to them with newsletters and emails targeting subgroups of your database, and the job of your team gets easier as more people get engaged. Every new project adds value. But aside from that, even from your own interest versus the people's interest, people are interested in different things. An online engagement space is a strategic approach to serving those interests now and in the long term. When it comes to citizen engagement, you can choose to be tactical and reactive and run your consultation projects off the side of your desk, or you can be strategic and plan for what is an inevitability. Online citizen engagement must be part of your policy and your official planning responsibilities. Well, my name is Mark. I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. This concludes today's webinar, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address them either now or after the fact. My contact information is here. Thank you for attending today's webinar.